Well, social media is having a field day over a recently published New York Times op-ed penned by Biden's border czar, Blaise Nunez-Neto. The piece was titled, "I was one of Biden's border advisors. Here's how to fix our immigration system." And it's being ridiculed for what some are calling intrinsic contradictions. The official Department of Homeland Security account mocked the op-ed on X, writing, "I was Humpty Dumpty. Here's how to sit on a wall." That's a pretty funny one. Conservative communicator Steve Guest writes on X, "This is like an arsonist saying they know how to put out the fire."
In Nunez-Neto's defense, however, he did acknowledge that the surge in crossings during Biden's presidency was indeed a crisis. He admitted it. He also admitted Biden had swung the pendulum too far left by doing things like enacting a 100-day pause on most deportations. Nunez-Neto summarizes the gist of his solution, writing, quote, "We cannot solve this crisis without bipartisan reform. Congress should create an immigration system that is most generous to those who are willing to wait and use significantly expanded pathways to come here and work, and that is least generous to those who cross illegally."
Biden's handling of the border was a political flashpoint and a major headache during his time in office. One APNORC survey published during his re-election campaign found over 68% of American adults disapproved of Biden's immigration policy.
I'm not gonna lie. This was hilarious when the people were tweeting, the advice, good message.
Here's how to stay on the wall.
Good really message, like wrong messenger. Nobody wants to hear that right now because you know what? There was a perceived open border issue no matter when and where Biden tried to fix it. And many states like Colorado, where I live, actually had local resources affected in a deep way, mostly because there was no federal help, right? Denver, because, and I understand the whole thing. With immigration, I really have an ear on the ground and am close to what Governor Abbott was feeling in Texas. He's like, listen, I can't deal with this. So if you want to be a sanctuary city, I will send the migrants to New York. I'll send them to Colorado. And so they were just everywhere that wasn't in his state because he's like, you pay for it. And so the solution was like state against state. And I was in the middle of that crisis living in Denver and then going from a pretty empty neighborhood to these are like real images where you're seeing like there's lots of people in your neighborhood just trying to make a living. And I interviewed them also, so I have empathy for migrants that have come here, understanding they're fleeing dire circumstances and got on the bus because transportation was provided to possibly places where they would be accepted to work, which Colorado has become. But I do think that both parties are to blame, right? Biden waited way too long to try to do anything significant about immigration. But when he did do it, I don't think it was right of President Trump to jump in and try to stop that from happening before he became president.
Although Trump ended up, it's a fair enough point, Trump ended up being right because he's like, no, we don't need this new law. We just need me to be president. And that turned out being correct because then when Trump was president again, the border crossings went way down. Right. With minimal changing of legislation. Trump said, he was right about this. He said, my presence alone will solve this crisis. And
but most of Americans don't agree with the way that he's going about immigration, even though they like that the numbers are down. So they have
about the border crossing. They like how he dealt with the border crossing.
Right, but they don't like what he's doing
they don't
in
like
Los Angeles. They don't like the way that he's skipping over.
Some of them like it.
No, people like that if people are doing violent acts in any type of protest that they are prosecuted.
Yeah, that's
everyone agrees to that. But I think the peaceful protests that were happening largely before our federal government got involved in Los Angeles was problematic for most people.
What's the protest about the immigration, not really the immigration policy itself?
Well, I just think in general, the way that Trump is going about it is very aggressive, and I think that we were told that these criminals were going to be stopped down as opposed to every single American that's helping businesses that we all work for and that Trump has himself used migrant labor. Yeah. So there's a long convoluted conversation.
Well, that's kind of the policy.
No, even how you feel about what we were talking about earlier, the cuts to the budget and how they're being formalized. There has to be a formalized process for migration, for asylum, for all that coming through our Congress. And so, yes, Trump said, let's not do it. But guess what? Now that you're president and you wanted everybody to wait until you're president because it was your most winning issue, then put something through Congress. There's still those same bipartisan group that wants to move forward.
Trump wants to do it. I mean, he's even said he said I don't want to use the word amnesty, but kind of gotta. The farm workers are gonna do something, but I don't want to use the word.
He has to learn how to lead with nuance. He has to learn how to not be so.
Republicans don't want that, and a lot of voters don't. It's a really unpopular. I mean, you say I probably don't disagree with you all that much on the immigration policy itself. What I think we should do is one thing, but I would never make the mistake of pretending that that's what most of the American people want. I've seen polls in every direction. I think a lot of people are, when you put it in a poll question, a lot of Americans, I suspect a majority of Americans, say, yes, I want them all deported. Then maybe when you show them what that actually looks like, well, that means police officers on every street. That means everyone getting stopped when they leave the grocery store to show their papers. That means major domestic surveillance. Then people will say, well, no, I don't want that. I just want all the illegal immigrants gone. Well, okay, but to facilitate that requires a growing of our government and a more muscular use of our police state. And then, not me. I'm law-abiding. I don't think this is going to interact with me. So that's the problem of public opinion.
It reminds me of stop and frisk in New York and how much of a failure that was. People were just getting stopped, and it was just like deciding.
I don't know if it was a failure.
I thought
it
that
was
an absolute failure, and it also was very racist, and people were just stopping people because they looked like something.
Okay, but it can be racist and a failure are two different things.
It's a failure because if you're a person of color living in this country, you're feeling like all the Americans would feel that you just described. Like, oh my God, I'm getting stopped for no reason. I'm just trying to go to work. And so I think that these policies are not something
I
that said
oppose
that
it
Americans
because it was racist, but it
was
might
a
have
failure.
been effective at bringing
No, I
down
don't think
crime.
it was effective because it put people in prison that never did anything wrong. Also in Rikers Island.
Didn't put people in prison that never did it. Well, I'm sure it did.
There were cases of people that
people were stopped without probable cause, and I oppose being stopped without probable cause.
And then one of them committed suicide. Jay-Z did an entire documentary on it. So these are.
Well, they put you in prison because they're charging you with something.
Yeah, this is a long story about how that can go wrong.
Well,
how we know immigration can go wrong.
I was thinking about stop and frisk lately a lot, actually, because actually in my neighborhood in D.C., there has been a curfew imposed on 18-year-olds. People 18 and younger cannot congregate in groups, I think, larger than 8 or 9 past a certain time. It's like from 10 o'clock to midnight or 9 to 11 or something, because there have been, all summer, there have been armies of teenagers setting off fireworks and rowdy and trashing the street and engaged in some real bad behavior, and so they've imposed this massive curfew.
I want to know. I want to talk to your neighborhood officials. What were they doing?
The police imposed it. I mean, I can watch it from my window. It's really bad. I don't know what should be done about it. Probably this is what should be done about it. It's really bad.
Well, going back to the immigration story,
but it's all black teenagers. So I don't know. Like the police, there's if there's a racist implication
rowdy,
to it.
Yeah, that's like. So
they are being rowdy. I can watch them.
Right, but so are kids that are 18, right? I'm sure. Tell me what you were doing at 18. You were calm. You never had a drink. You didn't party with your friends in college.
Very well
you didn't yell.
Kid.
I don't believe it. So, but either way, with immigration
going out
reform,
into the street and behaving in a rowdy way.
With immigration reform, to go back to the point of this topic, is there needs to be Congress solving this, because every single bill, even the big, ugly / beautiful bill, that one is not making everyone happy. There are Medicaid cuts that even Republicans don't like, but then there are also tax cuts that they do like. So when we pass an immigration bill that actually lasts the test of time, people are going to be unhappy with some, they're going to like the other parts, but it's better than just carte blanche and Trump's team doing whatever they want, and then most Americans feeling a little uneasy but happy with the results. Why don't we just come up with a formal, crystallized solution?
All right, up next, Barack and Michelle Obama are finally addressing those divorce rumors. We will tell you more about that. Stick around.